the area between the 1894 Washington building and the 1955 Lincoln building. And we can see some of the stonework here in the Washington building. The prominent feature on this side is where we've had some problems with the facing and all the window systems on the Lincoln building. And these are actually beginning to come loose from the side of the wall structure. And over this past summer, our engineers informed us that we had to come up with a fix that would retain these outer walls so they didn't keep expanding and have the danger of collapsing. So what you can see are metal pieces that were welded in to other cross pieces that are then affixed to the inside wall to keep this outer brick structure and this window system from coming away from the wall entirely. This is the technical building. This was built in the era of approximately 1914 to 1929, and we've had a lot of loosening of the stonework systems and the facade and the brickwork, which has posed a danger to folks who would be walking along this area. We had a handicapped ramp that was closer into the building, but our engineers recommended fencing off this area. And to do that, we were forced to also relocate this handicapped ramp, which is the main access to the entire school complex off of 6th Street. And if you look at this east wall of the auditorium, which is the east stage wall, you'll see three very, very large 40-foot tall steel columns. These were also installed this summer. And they were installed primarily to tie in to the roof joist and keep this wall from continuing to move outward and drift outward and also be in danger of collapsing. Okay. Across West Avenue, we have the student parking lot. This lot has approximately 140 to 150 spaces. Right now, the Ohio School Facility Commission is recommending that for a modern high school that 1/3 of the student body be accommodated with parking spaces. So with our approximately 2,000 students, that would be over 700 spaces that would be needed. So you can see we're severely undersized. Therefore, students are forced to park all over the community throughout the various streets. One of the other problems we're having with the gymnasium on both the west side of the gymnasium that we're on now and on the east side of the gym are along these window systems. And these window systems have pieces of steel that hold the windows in place that are riveted in. And as the rivets become rusted, we're experiencing falling of these frame pieces, which weigh several pounds each and pose a hazard to folks underneath. So many of these we've had to contract out to re-screw and put new screws in to hold them in place. There's brackets and clamps holding other ones in place. But it's certainly another dangerous system and something that really needs to be addressed long term. In the far west portion of this building, the stairwell that leads down to the small gym and the technical building, this whole facing brick along this one face of the stairwell actually came loose last year and fell down. We've been able to take and seal the rest of that off now and put a nice sealer on there, and on the other side it was beginning to come loose also. We've had that remortared and sealed that off. But again, that's a temporary fix, and we're not about to invest long-term dollars to do anything further with that until we find out what we're going to be doing with the entire building and hopefully replacing it. Behind us then we have the chimney and stack structure that supports the power plant. The power plant was built in 1921. That chimney was very dangerous at the top. It was approximately 90 feet tall, and that top 30 or 40 feet was becoming very loose. There were steel bands that were wrapped around the chimney holding the brick together because the mortar had become so loose. And so this summer, again, our engineers recommended that we take down a substantial section of that chimney stack, and we've removed about 40 feet of that so that we now have a safe height, still high enough to provide proper draft for the boilers, but no longer the safety issue, at least for now, with the deteriorated brick at the top. In addition, the tunnel structure underneath is very deteriorated. So we have a section of about 40 by 40 feet out here right off of the main cafeteria where we've had to fence this off entirely and not allow traffic, either foot traffic or vehicular traffic. Our left is the Detached Vocational building. This is a 1967, and that's really the newest structure on site, so that's still 40 years old. This roof system had become very deteriorated, beyond even patching. All the insulation in the roof was saturated entirely, and no matter how we patched it, the moisture would still leak through. And within that structure, we have several business classrooms with computers in there. We have 2 art room classes and our junior ROTC program. So everything was becoming ruined. We were losing computers, and this summer we were forced to put a new roof on here. And this is certainly a case of throwing good money after bad, but we had to protect the resources of the district. So that roof cost approximately $120,000. Again, it's a short-term fix, but we were forced to do something more aggressive than we would have liked to have done, and it diverts money that we could have well used elsewhere in the district. That we're in now is right off of the boiler room, and it's below the area that is fenced in on the outside to protect anybody from traveling over it in vehicles or by foot. This is really the most severely deteriorated area in our tunnel system. And the tunnel houses all the utility work for the district. So all the steam lines, the electrical lines, the gas lines, the phone system, the fire alarm, emergency alarm systems. But you can see severe deterioration along the columns and in the roof structure. And we've been forced to place steel support columns at the recommendation of our engineers in order to shore up this area and to keep it from possibly caving in. This is one of the stairwells on either side of a small room off of the tunnel in the technical building that leads up by the old gym area. This one has been closed off just because of the severe deterioration with all the water infiltration over the years and how it's eaten away at the foundation and the wall system and the plaster system. You can see the problem that we have right here. I mean, what we see here is a problem that we have in a building with 2,000 students and halls that are way too undersized to allow safe passage during class changes. In the Washington building, the skylight in the middle of the building has a nice structure over the top of it. The problem is all the leakage that's occurring right now because of the deterioration in the skylight. And one of the things we're forced to do is to build a structure over this right now for the winter time to keep more water from infiltrating in. To do that, we had to rent a crane, we had to buy the product, we have to use our labor. It's going to be a $2,000 to $3,000 job in order to just build this structure to keep more water from infiltrating through the whole middle of this historic building.